but we talking about sex tonight. Let's talk about sex. You and your spouse have to find your own sexual identity. Okay. And so this is a challenging thing sometimes. There's moments where you might have some good accidental, hey, it just worked today. But then there are other times when there's something that's just off to you. There's something that you don't like, or there's something you wish you had more of. And ultimately, it can leave you feeling like, hey, man, I just wish it could be better, or I don't like having it because it's just not amazing. Right. And so it may not be living up to your expectations. And so one of the reasons why we believe that this happens is because people got different appetites. Yeah. We have different preferences. We have different desires, right?
And we can't be or get offended because we have different appetites.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be offensive if my wife doesn't like a certain thing in the bedroom and I prefer it. It shouldn't be offensive that we're different there. Like, she's not a letdown of a wife because she doesn't like what I like. I mean, that would be like saying you should divorce your spouse because you like burgers and they don't. Like, that just doesn't make sense. But when it comes to sex, there's a lot of barriers that are up, personally because, or mostly because, as we said at the beginning, sex is kind of this subject that we assume the other person is reading our minds, or well, maybe in the last relationship you've had, or when you watch it on TV, it just looks like it just works together. They rip their clothes off and their noses are rubbing together while they're kissing, and they slam somebody on the kitchen counter. Your kitchen counter got too much stuff on it to be trying that, and rip my dang on shirt if you want. Watch what happens. We paid money for this shirt. So it's just the randomness of what we see on the big screen is just not real for yourselves. Yeah. Like, that was some director's idea of what they think a kid should be, or what they think sex should look like. And so you and your spouse, you guys have to get to the heart of who you all are and what sex should look like in your particular relationship.
And that means you have to have lots of communication concerning sex, saying what you like, saying what you don't like. And what we suggest is you actually have those conversations while having sex.
Oh, yeah. And so I know this is going to weird some people out, because you think that when you go into the bed chamber that you're supposed to, be super serious and everything's supposed to be, like, who said? Like, who made up the rule that when you get inside, it's one of those things that's just weird to me. It's kind of like how some people, they can't pray with their eyes closed, or they can't pray with them open, and they feel like their hands have to be clasped, so they're not really praying. Like, no one told you got to close your eyes when you pray. No one said you got to put your hands together for it to work. Like, these are things that we're kind of imposing on the experience, but they're not necessary. And when it comes to sex, like, you could actually be having a conversation with your spouse to where you literally can coach them what you like, and they can coach you what they don't like or like, and so on and so forth. And so, like, with your phone, you have the ability to go into the general settings, and then you can customize the screensaver. You can customize, on your computer, you can customize whatever displays and how fast you want it to come up. So we get preferences everywhere else. We get how to go into settings and transform it, or you go to a restaurant, you like some of the things on the menu, you don't like some of the things. When it comes to sex,
it's black and white.
Yeah, and worse off, it's black and white in your own head, right? And so it's just kind of like it most times it's not being communicated. And so if you and your spouse can get to a place to where you're like, hey, we're about to explore. We're going to experiment with us, like, not without having like outside influence imposed on what your bedroom experience is going to be. No previous relationship is going to slip into this bed. No, how they used to do it is going to slip in this bed. But we're going to figure out the way we like to do it. What do you like? And what do you like? Now let's try it. And say, yep, something like that. Nope, not quite. Figure it out.
Now here's the best thing about it. The Bible says that the bed is holy.
Yes. Yeah. It's completely undefiled.
So.
Yeah. And so this whole notion of, well, can Christians do this or that? Like, if you got that issue, God ain't saying nothing about at all in the Bible. And I choose to remain silent where the Bible is silent. There's no spot in there where God's like, 69 or foreplay is bad, or you can only do missionary style because it sounds sanctimonious and real simple and plain. Like, get rid of that, please. There's no restriction on how much pleasure you can have with pleasure. If you having a little bit or a lot, like you ain't sacrificing nothing for God.
Never
Like
float your boat.
he tells you that I have her body as mine and she has my body as hers. That is for our enjoyment, and God can care less.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's no scripture that restricts what you do. There's no, aside from having sex with other people,
right?
Or
and
committing
porn.
Adultery or pornography and different things, because that includes the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh. So the whole idea, though, but me lusting after my wife, the word lust means to strongly desire, as if to have. I can lust over my wife.
Full game.
And so the point that we're trying to make here is what positions you do, what toys you employ,
what turns you on.
All of that is personal preference, and you all have fair game inside of your own bedroom, so make it happen, okay? And so what we're going to challenge y'all to do is communicate in the bedroom. Communicate your preferences, and sometimes you need to communicate your expectations. Yeah. Preferences are different than expectations. Expectations are, for instance, for my wife, she likes to slow dance, or she likes receiving romantic gifts or a date night. She likes these things, or she may like the fact that sex may be better when she's not stressed out on if the dishes are going to be done, the trash is going to be taken out, et cetera, et cetera. And so these are things that she desires. And so for her, they stay on her mind. For me, all I need is a place. Give me a place, give me a time, show me a little skin, and I'm ready. Okay, it doesn't require a whole lot, and I can block out everything else that's going on in the world for that moment. but for her,
like if the room is messy, it's just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's a big deal. What is your expectation? For her expectation is a little bit of romance leading up to the experience, and not every time, because that's just not realistic for average everyday life. Sometimes we have what we call rollover sex. Where you just got to roll over and you just make it happen, man. That's what you got to do to keep the unity, the union tight. And and so what I would challenge every couple to do is say, okay, here's what my expectation is. If you're a person who likes excitement in the bedroom, and you can define that however you prefer, let your spouse know that. If you're a person who just is not, let's say, for instance, you haven't tried that before, you haven't tried anything adventurous or weird or what you may think is strange, but your spouse really loves that, y'all got to find a happy medium.
But it's unfair to say to the other person, well, I'm just not really enjoying myself. Mm-hmm. That's almost insulting, right, to say it like that, especially if you guys haven't had that conversation to discuss what you like or what you don't like.
Yeah, and so you gotta get to a place to where, like, look, let's say first you got one person who's extreme plain Jane, don't want anything other than the bare minimums of sex. And you got another person on the opposite end of the spectrum that wants to try kinky boots. And so you got these two people together. And where's their medium? Where's their mid? This person can just sit there and complain all day that, hey, I just want it regular, plain, simple, and I don't even need it that often. And this person's like, I need it like 100 times a week, and I need it in this manner, and we're not striking a sexual match. Where can they compromise? Yeah. Where can you all compromise? Where's their happy medium, the middle ground for you all? There's going to be some compromise for the person on the end of the plain Jane, and then the extremist may have to come to a place to where they say, all right, I can tone it back just a tad, so long as it's not a violation physically. Yeah. And so if something makes someone extremely uncomfortable physically, then that's something that needs to be ruled out. Mm-hmm. But if it stretches you a little bit in the sense of your preferences, but it's something that it's not killing you, it's not physically harming you in any way. If it satisfies the need of your spouse, then you take pleasure in knowing that you're pleasing them. Yeah. And in that same sense, for that person who's on the extreme end, you may have to tone it down quite a bit, but understand that in doing so, it may be a stretch just for your spouse to even meet you halfway. Mm-hmm. And so you have to know that, remember the point of it. It's not just the physical feel of it, but it's the heart. And that's why that's the most important position, because all the other positions of either being stretched to do something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, or being reduced to kind of slow it down just a tad, these are compromises that you make physically so that your heart can be well represented spiritually.
Yeah.